All right, let's get our other Facebook groups in here before it's officially time to go. And there we go. Boom, boom, boom. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, the 11th of May, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always on these morning shows, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are you doing? What's new? What's shaking?
I'm doing good. Just gorgeous spring here in the South, and scheduled release day for those of you that partake, uh, which we will. Some interesting matchups. I saw the Slime game and the other ones coming up. The first Monday Night Football game. Are we shocked to see Aaron Rodgers? I told you. I'm telling you, he's number 2 on the list.
Yeah.
On Q rating, it's still Aaron Rodgers is number 2.
And the opener with the Lions at Chiefs. So have the Lions arrived, and what's going on there? That's pretty good for them. Definitely pulling for them week 1 at Arrowhead. A tough game, but hey, man, that's why you play the game, right? You never know.
That's
But
right.
let's say hello to some people in here as the schedule is starting to be released slowly, and we're going to talk a little bit of Jacob Martin today. And any questions you have, it'll probably be it's the off season, so we'll probably do a shorter show unless you guys are killing it with the super chats and the comment section is live. We can go up to an hour, but this time of year we typically keep it a little bit shorter. So we got our guy Gatorade Gaming coming in saying good morning Broncos country. What's good, Nick and Scott? Hashtag Buck you too. We appreciate that. It's all love. Everything's fine. It's going to be hotter than heck out here in Seattle this week, but we'll manage. My basement is always nice and cool, and we have a big AC unit for our upstairs bedroom that helps keep things functioning out there because otherwise it gets hotter than heck. So,
Yeah, I've got way too much money invested in air conditioners in my house. Unfortunately, we've replaced 3 of them, one for each level, and by God, I want it cool. But it gets so humid down here. If you don't have one, you end up in a swamp. So,
yeah.
one thing you don't skip on in a house, you get a good one. Nick knows what it's like to go without air conditioning.
Yeah, it was the 2 years ago we had the heat dome event out here in Seattle where it got up to 114 degrees. And I lived in a house that didn't have AC, and most people in Seattle don't have AC, and it was unbelievable. Like the paint was like sweating off the walls. It was never seen anything like it in my life. But yeah, well, that's I guess the reality we're in now. Michael Ronquillo saying good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and Buckham. Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm sure these are stars because Scott pulled it up. So appreciate you, Michael. Hope you're doing well. And always shout out to you for being such a giant supporter of Scott and I and Mile High Huddle in general. We really do appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely. Schedule day and go Broncos. Thank you, Michael. And Michael, I wanted to tell you last night. We show most of your chat super stars or not. When it came through, it did not come through on our end, but on this end. So I actually sent a note to StreamYard, and I saw it on the Facebook side of things. It came through with 5,000 stars. Man, we wanted to put that up there, but we make sure that hopefully that how appreciated you are for this show.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're coming through with 5,000 stars, come through on here. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Wink, wink. But Albert Knopper saying we don't have air conditioning at all. None working. Last night it was 99 plus in our place. Rough, man. That sounds horrid. I feel you on that one. That's a level of hell that I do not wish to partake in. But yeah, man, get some blackout curtains or put up. I saw people putting up like cardboard and windows and stuff to block out the sun. Just keep it dark.
I'm going on vacation. I'm heading north for the summer with the Canadian geese.
Yeah, it's miserable when it gets that hot, and it should get that hot out here in the Pacific Northwest. But something about the mountains on all sides kind of create like this weird situation where heat can just like saturate and like sink, and hence the heat dome. So,
well, I'd been to Portland. I mean, I'd been to Seattle a bunch, and it was never that hot. But the first time I went to Portland, I was like, well, am I going to need a jacket? And I was going up into June, July. In the summer in LA, you basically have to have a jacket with you year round because once the sun goes down, air comes off that 60-degree water. It's cool at night. It was 98. I'm like, this is the 1 week a year in Portland that it gets like that, and that was when they did those big football camps, the opening, which was there, which was fun.
Yeah, Portland's far enough off the coast that it doesn't really get as much of the cooling. It's closer to the gorge and stuff. But yeah, I'll be heading down to Oregon here in 2.5 weeks, going out to Mount Hood, doing some hiking along the gorge, and then heading a few days to Cannon Beach, which is where the Goonies was filmed. So I've never been there. It's supposed to be pretty darn cool. Jeremy Sean coming in saying, morning, boys. Martin release was a piggy bank that just broke, but why? I am curious about this as well. I mean, we've talked about it on here a lot that Jacob Martin was somebody who was on this roster, and you could be the Broncos traded for him. Obviously, they valued him last offseason post Bradley Chubb trade, and the Broncos had a lot of options there. But why now? Why make this move today or yesterday? I guess versus lead up to it. Did they think they could maybe get a 7th-round pick for him
Maybe.
in the draft? I think that's the only thing I can really think of that.
That makes sense. I was like, why now? That's why, Nick. You just
Yeah.
hit it. Is maybe they thought they could spin and get a draft pick back for him, and once they decided they couldn't, he didn't last a week then. What, it would have been 2 weeks since the draft. Draft started 2
Mhm.
weeks ago yesterday, so it was basically a week. Let's get on the phone 9-10 days and see what we can figure out. But that makes sense because we had him pegged as a roster cut. I think there were 5 or 6 guys. I'm starting to flush that out of my
Yeah.
brain now. But I was like, okay, Graham Glasgow's gone. The running back, I've already forgotten his name. Edmonds.
Yep.
Chase
Edmonds,
Edmonds, he's gone.
Ronald
Uh,
Darby.
there were a few of them, and we put Jacob Martin in that group, and all the others were gone right away.
Hmm.
So I think you answered your own question. You answered mine because that was what I was going to ask. Why now? That's why they were trying to spin a late round pick or an upgrade or try and do something to upgrade to get a return, some sort of return on their previous investment.
And I also think it coming at the heels of the Kareem Jackson contract, they probably have like a certain amount that they wanted to have flexibility on. And the savings that you get from Martin is pretty darn close to what you are spending for Kareem Jackson as well. So we'll see if another move comes at the heels of it. But who knows? We have Gatorade Gaming saying maybe they sign Kareem Hunt. Maybe. It's
Maybe they
certainly a
signed Kareem Jackson,
possibility.
like you said. Kareem Jackson, we talk about cheap. He was cheap last year.
Yeah.
He got like a 50% raise. He went from like 2 million to 3 million on his salary. It was 2.8 or so, but that's still cheap. But my concern there is, are you getting what you're paying for? On Kareem Jackson, would you be better off with an Eric Harris type at this point? I don't know. That one didn't do it for me. But Jacob Martin, he'll land somewhere,
Mhm.
but just not at the rate that he was getting. That was the problem for him. When you get you're a contract, you're only worth, if you're worth more than they're paying you, you're safe. If you're not, you're in trouble. That's
Yeah.
basically what it boils down to.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the Kareem Jackson stuff, just kind of wanted to dig into this a little bit. First, we'll say hello to Kevin Gray, Morning, Nick and Scott, and the rest of Broncos country. So, what's the haps today? Talking a little Jacob Martin, talking a little bit of the schedule release too. I've heard some rumors about the Broncos in that as well that we'll talk about here soon. But talking about Kareem Jackson, Broncos signed him to a really rare type of contract, and this is just me being a football nerd. But shout out to Nick Corti, who works for Over the Cap, does a lot of good work for Over the Cap, and he talked about the Broncos signing Kareem Jackson to a 4-year qualifying offer. And he says on a Twitter thread here, said didn't even consider the 4-year qualifying offer for the Broncos since it's such a rare contract to be able to hand out. But it's also a strong additional reason to bring Kareem Jackson back on these grounds. The 2.6675 million is the absolute maximum the Broncos could have offered Kareem Jackson on this offer. Might as well make this thread talking why. He says 4-year qualifying offer starts off as a veteran salary benefit contract with compensation of minimum salary of 1.165 plus a signing bonus of no more than 167,000 in 2023. So pretty much the contract is they could have used it on another different player, but it means that the qualifying against the cap is much less because of that. Even though what he's getting paid, it's how the contract is set up. It's not as doesn't hit the salary cap
That
as much.
sounds like something they throw in collective bargaining to say, hey, can we try and make sure that if we still want to play at 35, we can?
Yeah,
The
and for the
old
same
guy
team.
clause.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really interesting. It's Article 27, Section 7 of the collective bargaining agreement. It's such a weird thing. It sounds like, in some comments on it says it sounds like the watered down version of NBA's bird rights. So the Broncos only count 1.35 limit to Jackson on that contract that they could have given to him. So it's a weird situation where like the contract is not as, the way I interpret it, is not as big against the cap as what he's actually getting. So such a weird a weird thing. You never see that handed out. But shout out to the Broncos.
We can
And
take this thing way off the rails now.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, by the way, did anybody see the Ted Lasso scene about being a Denver Broncos fan? No spoilers here, but I text Nick immediately. I said, "You're not going to believe this," because I'm
Yeah.
3 hours sooner than him. I get to watch it. I got off the show on Tuesday nights and I go watch the Ted Lasso episode. I'm like, no spoilers. I just said there's a Denver Broncos reference in here that you're not going to believe. It may turn into a meme for eternity.
Mhm.
Yeah, I won't spoil it for anybody, but yeah, there is a reference in there that just makes you go, "Oh no." So anyway,
I mean, what we can give away is he was the coach of Wichita or something, some small Division II school, and gets hired right to be the coach of Richmond, the English Premier League team. They might have been Division II when he was brought on, but he's from Kansas City Chiefs area, and he grew up a Chiefs fan. So definitely, a anecdote that kind of, or not an anecdote, an analogy that links the Broncos to the other team, different than compared to his Chiefs fans and friends.
yeah. And funny, I thought he said no, he was a Packers country, but you're right. It was Kansas City fans. For some reason I thought he said he was eating these cheese and all this stuff, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was a good episode though. Good episode.
Yeah, it was a fun
It's
show.
not a soccer show. It has done a lot to actually get more people watching soccer, believe it or not. The Premier League and stuff. It's been good for it.
I love that they added Richmond to FIFA. A lot of fun with that one. So it's we got Zach Powers coming in saying, morning. Good to see you, Zach. Hope you're doing well. Jason O'Neill, good morning, Broncos country. Beautiful day here in northern Michigan. Hope it's beautiful where you are. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous here in Seattle today. So I know that tornadoes and stuff went over Kansas, talking about Kansas yesterday. So hopefully everybody's safe out there in the Midwest. It is definitely tornado season. So I hope they're doing well. Jason also says, how much flexibility does Denver have after the release of Martin? What was it, 3.4 million more of flexibility? Maybe that could lead to a signing of a defensive lineman or another edge rusher or a running back. Maybe it's something that the Broncos just put in their back pocket. I mean, we talked about it on here before. There was a handful of unknowns, but definitely a handful of players that could qualify for edge snaps this upcoming season. And now that room is slightly less crowded and slightly less expensive. So, does give them a little bit more flexibility, but not so much that it's going to make a massive difference unless you are going into the red a little bit from what you gained from moving on from Martin.
Can you tell when I open up another tab to check references? Because
Yes.
it stops completely. That's a StreamYard problem. I'm going to change browsers on this and see if I have any better luck. Yeah, the flexibility, there's about $10 million right now. And I started looking it up originally to think, well, how much is there going to be? Because you still have to sign your draft class. I'm like, wait a minute. There won't be hardly any money in your draft class this year.
No.
That's pretty negligible. So that 10 million can be used for upgrades. And when you start talking $3 million, $3 million is good money at a lot of positions. For, they're saying last night on Mile High Insiders, well, let's take that money and let's just throw it to Dalton Reisner as a backup or something like that. I'm like, guys, $3.5 million is not backup guard money. That's actually 31st in guard money. That's smack dab in the middle median mode. So I guess that would be mode of right there in the middle of what starters get paid. That's good money. That's good money for a running back. That's really good money for Mike Purcell type of money to come in and bring in another veteran starter who's played a lot. So you can do a lot of things with that money. And you certainly didn't want it tied up in a guy who is 6th or 7th on the depth chart at edge. So we knew, like I said, we had a pretty good feeling. We put him in the these guys are gone list back in January.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's one of those things still, though, that the Broncos traded okay capital last season to get him. I think they're still going to have to send the Jets a 4th-round pick this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a 4th or 5th. I think it's a 4th for him, that maybe there's an injury or something. Our team looks at their edge rushing group and like, man, we could really use a 4th edge rusher or a 3rd edge rusher. And you could trade Jacob Martin then rather than just moving on from him right now. So it makes me wonder a little bit if there is a potential move on the horizon, or at least the negotiation and possibility of a move. And this Facebook user comes in and said, does this imply they're planning to sign a free agent? They're going to bring in somebody else still. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they got to get to 90. Nick.
Yeah.
They've got to get to a 90-man roster. There will be lots of additions between now and opening of camp. So, you can think of the 53. you're going to hear another 24 signings over the course of time. So this doesn't imply they're planning on it. They're always planning on it. They're always planning on bringing guys in. That never stops. What it does is it means you might be able to shop in a higher tier for some of those guys that you're bringing in. And maybe, like I said, if you wanted to go $3 million for a center is good money. For a guard is good money. Running back, a tight end, you can get starting tight ends. Basically, those non-premium positions, $3 million is starter money in this league.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They can fill out some spots, and I think earmark maybe defensive line, running back, ones we've talked about. Mark Schrader, good morning. All good to see you, Mark. Hope you're doing well. We got Dave Glassman in the house with the Hearts. Hope you're doing well, Dave. Jeff also said, could this be a move to bring in more offensive line depth? It's a need. Also, thanks for the response the other day. You are correct. My take was misplaced. Maybe Jackson wasn't the end. I don't
talking about the title saying, is this complete? Is the defense complete then?
Yeah.
Where, like basically is this the starting 11 that we could expect to see? Maybe the defense might be done as far as the starters, as far as roster building and all that type of stuff. It's never ever done. We know that. And yes, you would like to bring in some other positions. What would you like to do? But what can you do based on the available resources you have? You might not be able to do much of anything that would affect the starting 11. So appreciate you, Jeff.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Jeff. Also, I agree with you about O-line depth, and this move could make it so the Broncos could add another person. I keep looking at the starting lineup. I mean, I talked about it with Carl on Tuesday night. Maybe the Broncos bring in one of the plethora of edge rushers out there, and you have somebody like a Mark Ingram that starts opposite of Randy Gregory, kicking Baron Browning down to the third edge rusher. That'd be fine with me. Maybe you're looking for somebody to come in and be another interior defensive lineman. You got Matt Ioannidis out there. You got Chris Wormley out there. You got Akeem Hicks out there. You obviously got Shelby Harris. So those are guys that you could probably pay, about 3.4 and bring them in, and that'd be an interesting move. And DWI guys comes in and says Martin traded Denver from New York for a 2024 fifth round pick for a 2024 fourth round pick.
So it was just, in essence, it was just a swap.
Yes.
So it wasn't you downgraded a pick. So you didn't lose a fourth. You just dropped your fourth to a fifth. So not too bad on that deal.
Yeah, and
a lot of money. You spent a lot of money on it, but that's not our money.
And just for the sake of complete note keeping here, last I knew, we didn't know which fourth round pick would be going to the Jets because the Broncos also have the Miami Dolphins 2024 fourth round pick that they acquired as also part of the Bradley Chubb deal. So I don't know which fourth round pick is going to be heading to the Jets. Broncos right now have 2 in their pocket, but one of them is going to the Jets. Which one? Don't know. Keith Brugman coming in saying, Nick and Scott, do we get any media coverage on Broncos rookie minicamp? I think there's going to be some media availability to the coaches coming up here, but as far as we're not going to be given very much. I mean, they've been running pretty tight ship out there under Sean Payton, so we'll hear whatever they want us to hear.
But there is an open session for filming and video for TVs, at least for you might have to be a local broadcast. So part of the practice will be open and there will be media availability this weekend. So there should be some stuff coming out.
Yeah. So thank God. Hopefully you hear some stuff here and we'll see what happens. We got Albert Knoppers in the house. Hello all. Another exciting day coming up with the schedule. Yep. We'll get into that. Dominique Martin, morning Broncos family. What's the move with the cap space? Shout out to Nick and Scott. Got 3.4 more. So that should be pretty good. We got Mark Hoyniak saying rain and hail.
But what's the move? What's your move? Well, we've talked about that a little bit. What could you do? I know you've got me thinking a lot about this since our last show that, a 300-pounder on the defensive line might be the best way to go right now with that money. That might be your biggest need if there's not a starting caliber center available, where you probably could use the most depth, where you could use that money because you can get running backs even cheaper than that. Is maybe I want to spend $2.5-3 million on a 300-pounder out there. That makes a lot of sense.
For starters, I think that's one out there, and we haven't talked about it yet, but we had coming and talking here. Jeff W. talking about the offensive line depth. I mean, we've talked about it on the show a lot, but not for a bit. But the offensive tackle, your swing tackle right now is who the hell knows? If one of your starting tackles goes down, that's a sphincter clenching moment for everybody in Broncos country because Isaiah Prince, I mean, is Quinn Bailey. I mean, not good. So maybe even your swing tackle could be a
Cam
place.
Fleming, this is
Yes,
Peyton and Peyton on the phone. We'd like to offer you 2.5. Would you like to come back?
I've heard that he wants a little bit more than that, but
And
that's
he should,
probably
but he hasn't gotten it yet.
hasn't gotten it yet. Yep, exactly. But that's definitely a big one.
Once
Mark,
doesn't get.
true, but
Might get
it still. Mark Hoynack, rain and hail in Fountain, Colorado. Yeah, I saw that there's a Fountain. I saw that there's a lot of severe weather out there in Colorado, east of the Continental Divide. So you guys be safe out there, and it's pretty rough. Robbie Red saying not many homes in Washington have AC. Not many homes in Western Washington have AC, but times they are changing, unfortunately, in that front. Shane Hanna coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Hope you two are good. We are doing pretty well. We're excited for it to be the weekend and enjoying hanging out with everybody today. We got Jesse Hilborn in the house. Good morning. I recognize this one. Oh, Miguel.
I recognize this one. Miguel coming in says, good morning, fellas. Thank you for the stars, Miguel. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, shout out to Miguel. Congrats on your jersey win. And Steve Kennedy saying, good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you, Steve. Hope you're doing well.
He keeps finding the one that doesn't get watched very much. Dad, you're still on Mile High Huddle podcast, daily Denver Broncos coverage. You probably, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can come on YouTube or the Mile High Huddle Facebook page because you're all by yourself in there. I start feeling bad about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Robbie Red comes in and says, good morning, guys. Broncos trade for Cordell Patterson. I don't think the Falcons would be trading Cordell Patterson. I think they have aspirations of the playoffs this season, and he's definitely a part of the package out there. He's a versatile chess piece in that era that we are entering of positionless football. They're going to have and Arthur Smith is one of the best at scheming guys open from the backfield, the running back position, tight end position, fullback. So I don't think that the Broncos are in a position to be giving away draft capital, and I don't think the Falcons are pressed at all to move on from Cordell Patterson.
It would cost you at least a third rounder. At least.
Not worth it.
Yeah. And because that means he's not worth that. Well, he is to Atlanta. That's the point. He's not for sale. We talk about that when they actually put dollar values on transfers in soccer. So, Manchester United is asking $90 million for this guy. Well, that's insane. He's not worth that. That means he's not for sale. You don't want him. I said Cordell Patterson would have been a great fit for this team last year as a free agent, but he actually tweeted out there, F the money, this is where I want to be after he signed his contract with Atlanta. He is loved with a big capital L, loved in Atlanta.
Yeah. He's been a fun player there. He's been very good on my fantasy teams. I keep getting him late.
It's hard. Atlanta's not an easy team to play for through the years. And if you can do it and play as hard as he has, and he's always got this gigantic megawatt smile that just lights up the dome, he's going to become a fan favorite, and he has very quickly.
Yeah, good guy. Pulling for him. Enjoyed him at Tennessee when he was part of that 3-pick draft class for the Vikings, 3 first-round pick draft class for that Vikings class. Jamal Killian's in the house, and good morning, Broncos country, on this warm morning in Georgia. How warm is it out there, Scott? What's going on? You melting? You're a little north of Georgia.
It's not too bad. I'm in North Atlanta. Jamal, I'm not sure where Jamal was. For some reason, I thought Jamal was in Southwest Georgia, but it was nice and warm because we've had 30s and 40s a lot in the mornings, and then it goes up to mid 70s. But it's getting to the point now where it's like 60 in the morning. And then moving up to 80. So there's not that huge like desert variance where it's 30 at night and 110 during the day, which helps warm up the swimming pools around here. So that means it's almost pool time.
Well, there you go. That also helps with the fishing, I bet. Shout out to Steve Kennedy in there. Water not getting as cold. Carol Allen coming in here saying good morning. Good to see you, Carol. Hope you're doing well. We also have our guy, David Hart, saying first time catching you guys live on here. Good morning, guys. Well, shout out to you, David. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully it's not the last time, and I hope you're having a great morning. I hope you're doing well. And also, it's Benjamin Flores. I don't know what's going on there, but good to see you, Ben. We obviously know you. Got our guy, Peter coming in from, you in Cambodia these days? Where you at, Peter? Saying, let's go Bronco. Oh, and there's asking you'll answer. Good evening from Cambodia. Hope you're doing well. We also got Miguel Santos-Steven coming back in saying, what primetime games do you think the Broncos are getting this season? This is a good question. Off the top of my head, we'll probably get one AFC West matchup. It might be a Thursday night game like Broncos Raiders or something on a Thursday night game. But other than that, I'm not sure who we might get. I guess I might as well share this. What I have heard, and this could end up not being true, but what I've heard is week 7 Broncos versus Packers. So that's one that we'll see if it comes out to be true. But that's one that there's been a leak or some people talking that I've heard Broncos Packers week 7. So that'd be a great game. I mean, probably one of the tougher tickets to get in Denver.
Where is that game supposed to be?
I think it's in Denver.
Okay, that might be a fun meet and greet.
It will, but the issue is those are going to be expensive tickets because there are 10,000 Packer fans.
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of Midwest transplants.
Yeah, it's the Packers don't have they've got a big fan base for such a small media market, but the longer you wait, hopefully the harder tickets will be to get because the Broncos are playing well anyway. So the Broncos should be a tough ticket period because they are the Broncos.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter who you're playing so much as what you're hoping.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying for sure. But when you start putting in airfare and hotels, the ticket doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's like, what's an extra $50?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, I don't even want to say how much I spent last year for the week 1 game, Broncos versus Seahawks, but it was, what was it, Sunday night week 1 or Monday night week 1, and it was Russell Wilson's homecoming. So
thanks for the stars, Miguel. Zach has a question. What are your way too early season predictions based on our opponents? I want to do that one Monday. I want to go through and do that one Monday when we see how they are stacked up because their opponents are one thing, but okay, you go back-to-back road trips to the East Coast, or you've got who's your NFC match this year?
It's the Packers, NFC North.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll be I want to do that one on Monday.
Let me make sure that I'm remembering this correctly, but yeah, they're playing the NFC North and the AFC East. Okay. So those will be fun ones. And then they're across.
You don't get the AFC South. You guys go from the AFC North to the AFC East. That's black and blue divisions up there.
Yeah. But hopefully the Broncos got a little bit more black and blue dish out ability this offseason with Sean Payton.
Should help match up. The 49ers, Jeremy says the 49ers had a ton of fans last season for the meet and greet. Yes, they did. That was a fun game. The 49ers, the two teams that Nick and I watch every week, the Falcons and Broncos, they both beat the 49ers.
Yeah, crazy.
And they were bad teams. And these are two teams with the top 10. So
I mean, the Bears beat the 49ers.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for rising to the occasion and knowing when you need to win. And basically the schedule's long enough. It's like, listen, you have a getaway day game in baseball with 162 games. Like, we're going to play our reserves and we're going to throw a bullpen game. It's gotten to the point where you can almost do that twice a year in the NFL. They don't do it that way, but we're going to rest a couple of these guys. We got a bye week coming up. And we're going to give them 2 weeks off. We're going to play some of these young guys.
Yeah, it should be fun. Gosh, I'm excited for the season already. We've already gotten through enough of the offseason. It's like, okay, I'm ready for some real football. Michaela Israel saying, good morning, you guys rock. I keep trying to send super sticker, but it's not letting me. Well, Scott and I will post our PayPals on here. That's a little no. I'm glad that it came through, Michaela. Thank you so much for the shout out. Shout out to you and Cooper as well. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. And happy
glad you
Friday
made it through the night. I knew you were battling some of that tornado weather yesterday too, if I'm not mistaken. So good mornings. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad your feet are on the ground. Hopefully you didn't see, little Karen Terriers flying around and wicked witches on their bikes. We got Michael Sack coming in saying Broncos also got the Commanders. Yeah, that 17th game. What did they add to that? Wherever you rank in your entire conference, the team that ranked the same in the other conferences who you're going to match up against. The Broncos were how many teams in each conference? 16. So they were like the 14th ranked team in the AFC. They're playing the 14th ranked team in the NFC.
Houston, Indianapolis. Who had the number 1 overall?
Bears.
Okay, so Bears 1, 2. So it was just those two. So yeah, there were 2 teams ahead of you.
So 14th. Yep. So that's where they end up. So they'll be playing the Commanders on that one, and that's going to be a home game for Denver. So Denver gets
one. What are they doing at quarterback?
They are going with Sam Howell, but they also signed Jacoby Brissett.
Okay.
So really, they seem like they're playing a long-term game. Oh, did you hear? They might get in trouble, though. The Commanders, they tried to reach out to and see the interest of Andrew Luck.
I did hear that. Yeah, I don't know if that would cost them a first-round pick.
But
Irsay was I did hear we do. Chad runs a Colts site on SI, so I help him out with some things on Colts and YouTube and stuff. So I keep up with the Colts pretty pretty well, and they're looking for any reason to. They're going to niggle them to death until you sell this team and get out. We don't want you here. And unfortunately, you feel bad for the Washington fans. You know, in this billionaire boys club league where it's pay your way in and get money, there's no real incentive to win and to be successful. It actually, you know, reward you for losing. And the only ones that get punished are the fans. And the Washington fans have had it bad for a long time. That Daniel Snyder thing's a nightmare.
Luckily, it's almost over soon, and Washington's a sleeping giant as far as the money maker that they are. Pretty surprised that Jeffrey Bezos didn't step in and get that one, because that DC mid-Atlantic market is massive out there for them. So a lot of money to be spent on that. Per Athletic, the Broncos are playing the Packers week 7, so I guess that it's out there. I had heard it earlier as well, but there it is. So probably from a similar source on that one. But Scott, we want to talk a little bit of the Jacob Martin move still. Where do you see this room falling now that the Broncos have moved on from Jacob Martin? In my opinion, Martin was probably your first guy off the bench kind of guy, especially in non-pass rush situations. But without him, I think you have a pretty strong, not strong, but I feel pretty comfortable about your front 4. But after that, spot 5, spot 6 seems pretty damn up for grabs on that Broncos spot if they don't bring in anybody.
As it should be. I mean, how many teams are going, oh, yeah, we feel really good about our 5th and 6th edge rushers. Yeah. You know, you want to feel good about 1 and 2 and maybe 3. That's the problem right now with the Broncos is how good do you feel? It's like, okay, I'd feel good if 1 and 2 were my 3 and 4. And I could count on it because you can't necessarily count on them with health reasons, but you got to figure, you know, Randy Gregory, Baron Browning are 1 and 2 for me. And then, you know, Jonathan Cooper and Nick Benito, he should find himself in the rotation a little bit more often now. He's going to have to do the dirty work or he's not going to play. It cost him last year. He had a healthy scratch several times last year. So he's going to have to do the dirty work to get in there. And to his credit, I think he knows that he's out there putting in the work and the time. And that'll be one of the interesting things of camp to see if he's put on some weight and how he's still moving. You know, I say you don't get a lot out of OTAs, but that's one thing I'll be looking for is he put on some weight and does he still look fluid? Does he still look quick? Is the burst still there? But it's Baron Browning and Nick Benito time for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on that one. Baron Brown and Nick Benito have to step up. Brown only 2 years of control left. Benito healthy scratched a lot of times last season. I am curious, though, how the 5th edge rusher spot will play out. Just the guys that are obviously in that spot right now. You have, Christopher Allen, who we've been waiting on for a year now, and he's been injured a heck of a lot, but he's a talented player when he's out there rocking that number 4 at Alabama. He was a lot of fun to watch. So hopefully he can be healthy and stand out this season. Aaron Patrick, I mean, he was getting snaps before Nick Benito at times last season. They really like his special teams ability, and he's a really good athlete out there. They love him because the athleticism translates pretty easily to special teams, but it also can translate pretty well to edge. So there was some talk last season of really liking Aaron Patrick. If he is that much of a special teams contributor, I would not overlook him. And then our favorite undrafted free agent this last cycle was Thomas Incoom, who we could see as well. So that 5th edge rusher spot, I know we're definitely in the weeds here because that's like super nerdy to be like going on a tangent about the 5th edge spot. But I think that's going to be a fun battle to watch this offseason, assuming the Broncos don't bring in another edge rusher and kick everybody back and kind of make, Cooper / Benito that 5th guy with somebody more substantial coming in.
Yeah. And at this point, who would you bring in? Yannick Ngakoue would cost you 8 figures. He's probably going to be a $10 million guy. He's holding out for that right now. He was above that. And I think he's probably worth that. You can go still Frank Clark, Leonard Floyd, or some guys that are still out there, but I don't know if that's the right fit for the Denver Broncos right now, where you've got some youth, it's so about health with this team at edge. Everything we talk about, it's like, you've got Randy Gregory, but we almost treat Randy Gregory right now like we're treating Javonte Williams. Like, anything you get out of Randy Gregory is just a bonus because you can't count on him to be out there. Now, the good news is, and I saw a question last night, I don't remember who it was, and I didn't answer it because I wasn't on, but is his contract up after this year, Randy Gregory's? No, it's not up, but it's you can move on from it after year 2 without too big of a dead cap penalty. So this will be it. If he's not out there for 15 games, 10 sacks, 15 games, which would be career highs for him, he's done. He's done in Denver. So it's time, and we'll see how bad he wants it. We'll see if he can stay healthy. But that's the big question for me isn't, who's down the line. It's got to be the ceiling of this team. You can get adequate from some of the guys on the team, but the ceiling is Baron Browning and Randy Gregory healthy is good. It's really good. Mm-hmm. That's a big question.
I mean, Randy Gregory's highlights and flashes are as good as almost anybody. I mean, just the athleticism, the size that he plays with, the bend at that size. He's got a rare skill set. I mean, he looks like a lottery pick at edge, but because of issues off the field, marijuana and stuff before when NFL was really cracking down on that, and injuries, his career just has not really lived up to the ability, which is unfortunate, but he will be a big one to follow this season. You mentioned Yannick Ngakoue, 2 names that I think I'll have to do some research, but I did read that there's some connection to this coaching staff with prior, these guys prior working with some of these coaches. Was Frank Clark was one of them. He's still out there. He's somebody that he has some connection to somebody on the Broncos staff. And then also we mentioned him earlier, but I think Melvin Ingram also has a connection out there to somebody. So
Melvin Ingram's a good pro, really good against a run. That would be a smart 1-year, $5 million deal if he would be willing to take it. Take some pressure off some of the younger guys and kind of help teach them. We talk about Kareem Jackson and learn how to be a pro. Who's Nick Bonito learning from right now? I mean, the coaches, yeah, that's one thing. But how do you take care of your body? How do you prepare? How do you spend your downtime? Those are the kind of things when we talk about leadership and experience. That's the kind of stuff that matters. Yeah. How are you preparing for games? Not what you're doing on the field. That's what coaches are for. Your teammates is how you learn how to become a professional football player. Who's doing that for the young guys right now? Randy Gregory. I wouldn't consider him the world's best mentor.
I want him to take care of himself.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Baron Browning, hell, he's only been at the position for a year. So those other guys, maybe that was why Jacob Martin hung around a little bit longer for all I know. But Melvin Ingram would be a good person to bring in that type of role.
Yeah. There's a couple names. I don't know. I mean, obviously Frank Clark fell in the draft because of issues with I think it was some sort of domestic violence issue at Michigan. And there's been issues with him in the NFL too, but he's one that's maybe not the leader, but a vet player that you're looking for, like might be able to fill a rotational basis and be out there. Zach Powers comes in, a more NFL question at large, says, what team will end up with Caleb Williams next season? He lists the Buccaneers, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Raiders. I think the Cardinals would have to be the odds-on favorite because their roster is atrocious, and they're going to be without Kyler Murray next season. That seems like a absolutely terrible team on paper. I think they have the lowest Vegas win total of any team. So I think that's a good call here. The Buccaneers are a good call as well. Be curious to see what happens with teams that just took quarterbacks this last season, but maybe they end up falling apart some, specifically the Houston Texans. What does that mean if they're terrible? If CJ Stroud isn't the guy, does he get Josh Rosen, or do they trade that pick for a lot of spots? I mean, Houston's, I think, got a win total of 5.5 as well. They could be up there. And the other dark horse team that I would list in this grouping is the Tennessee Titans. I think Vrabel is such a good coach that they're going to maximize the defense still. But I think Vegas has the Titans at like 6.5 under or over under for their win total, which is one of the lower ones out there. So my bet would be the Cardinals. Other point I was going to make is we keep talking about Caleb Williams, and that's rightfully so, but Drake May, I think, needs to be in the same breath for now. He might end up being, further down, but there's enough people that I respect that cover the league and watch the league that say like Drake May is right there with him, that I think that we need to at least toss his name in at this point in the evaluation process.
Yeah, I haven't watched Drake as much as I have Caleb, and I've only watched a little bit of Caleb, and I was like, oh my God, is he always this good? Or, is this just a really good player having a really good day? And some of the responses I got were both. He's really this good, and, so him being talked about number one doesn't surprise me a bit. Where does he go? We'll see. Let's revisit in week 6, and we can see who's already packing up shop. But then you come down and the Texans win the last game against the Colts, and it gets the Colts like up 4 spots and drops the number 1 pick away from the Texans. So we will see. Let me see. I thought this was a good question from Keith, who is very good at asking good questions. So thank you, Keith. Did Hackett's training camp hinder last year's draft class?
Possibly.
Yeah, I was thinking possibly, and then I was thinking, okay, of the players that overperformed what you might have expected going into the season, who would that be?
Damari Mathis is like
Damari Mathis. Okay. Yep. Damari Mathis. In a non-contact 7v7 environment, what can I simulate the best? What position has the best translation to actual football?
Yeah.
Wide receivers and corners.
Yeah.
The trenches, running backs, linebackers, punt returners, you got to see it live. Mm-hmm. You've got to be hit. If you're not hitting and being hit, then you're regressing. So Keith, if the answer to this is yes, I think the answer is yes. And the one player that we saw who probably outperformed expectations was a defensive back that can still get good reps in a 7v7 low contact environment.
I just have a hard time. I guess it's possible, but with the Broncos, like defensive line positions that they took, typically those are spots, if they're not lottery picks in like the top 10, 15, mm-hmm. they're going to take time anyway. I don't care who the coach is unless you hit extraordinary luck. So it's pretty hard for me to say. I would say that overall, like the tackling issues, run fit issues, the physicality on the offensive side of the ball, those are issues, but impacting the small rookie class that was without top draft capital, too early for me to say. And also just where they were selected, it was going to be probably likely they were going to have some slow development anyway.
Right. But did it become slower? Not that the expectations were all that high coming in, because Cristiano comes in. He says, does that mean Benito can still take off? Please. Benito wasn't taken for last year. He was a traits guy who needed some work. Like, okay, in year 3, we can turn this guy into a real pro.
I was wrong. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Houston traded. This is a reason I criticized that as well. Houston traded the pick for Will Anderson. So if they suck next season, we could see this case where
they traded one of the Browns picks though, or they got an extra pick. Like they didn't actually give up much because they came out of that spot.
I think you're right. They traded.
So I think they still have their number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna have to look that up.
Let me look up Tankathon real quick. But it's like the reason they could do that was because they had already made some really good moves. Mm-hmm. But Tankathon says Arizona right now picks 1 and 2.
So it must have been the Houston pick.
And it says they've got Cleveland's first pick next year, which is 17.
Ouch. Well, there it is. Yeah, that's well, Anderson better be a Hall of Fame player.
That said, Houston's pick could be better. That it doesn't have to be number 2 next year.
No.
It could be, and it should be in the teens, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. And talking about quarterbacks for 2024 draft class, Jackson Dart, maybe. No.
Good name though.
It's a good name, but if you can cut this up if I'm really wrong on that, but I don't think he is close to the same breadth there. The other guys that stand out for me, if we're talking quarterbacks, I don't think it's going to be as good at the top next season. Like as far as, was it 4 or 5 guys getting drafted in like the first 3 rounds, but other names right now to keep an eye on for quarterback would be Michael Penix at Washington. I know Scott will roll his eyes at this, but somebody with tools that looked like it clicked last season was Bo Nix. I think probably a day 2 quarterback, but somebody that you want to keep.
We talk biases all the time. I went to Auburn. I watched Bo Nix at Auburn. I watched Bo Nix come back to the South to play Georgia. And I've yet to see anything that makes me think in those circumstances that this guy can play in the NFL. Now, I didn't watch a single Oregon game that wasn't against Georgia.
Yeah. Well, he's one that I think there's enough there as far as the athleticism, frame, and tools that it's like, okay, I'm intrigued, but I didn't watch him much at Auburn. So I don't have that bias.
It was poor.
Yeah.
It was poor. And he came in as a legacy and a big recruit, and Malik Willis saw the writing on the wall and he took off, and they would have been much better off if Malik Willis had played earlier, and let Bo Nix sit a little bit longer.
Yep. Other two really young. So Michael Penix and Bo Nix are a little bit older at the quarterback position, so they've had a chance to mature a little bit. Two younger guys that might be able to take off. Quinn Ewers, who was a super recruit, went to Ohio State, then got a big deal and is at Texas now. He's got Arch Manning behind him, but Arch Manning's going to have to wait a season because Ewers is somebody that some NFL teams like. And then one of the younger prospects last season, he was erratic last year, but if we're evaluating based on traits, he's got, I think, great arm elasticity. He's just a twitched up player. And that is JJ McCarthy at Michigan as well. So struggled in that TCU game. But again, based on the traits, I see the ability there. So, we got Zach Power saying Quinn Ewers over JJ McCarthy. Those are the other two names that stand out for me. J.R. Capron comes in and says Dylan Gabriel at OU. I was not super impressed with Dylan Gabriel's tools out there. I think, that air raid kind of spread him out system. He did okay, but it's kind of like when you're watching, like, what are the stats here? Oh my gosh, look at Sam Hartman at Wake Forest. He's breaking all these passing records. And then you watch him play and it's like, that's not an NFL arm. That's just that's why you want to watch the traits.
The quarterbacks like that. The one, we've talked about this before, but in any sport, the one that stats matter the least in evaluating is football. It's the most team-oriented game and system and all that type of stuff that it completely, you're dependent on all those things, and all of those things can help skew your numbers. I take that guy and drop him into my system where you've got to be able to hit that opposite hash throw on a line. You can't. Okay, we're done. So yeah, the stats don't matter, despite my history of emails from dads with quarterbacks saying, well, his stat, I don't care about stats. Don't care. We're getting close to wrapping this up here. And I was just thinking, if you're a big fan of Chad Kelly, you might love Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler's out there. Yeah, he's one that is interesting. We'll use the word interesting to be nice. I know that interesting as well. You have, man, we're talking 2024 draft. Who thought it would be this early? But before Hendon Hooker took over at Tennessee, they actually decided to go with Joe Milton first, who was the quarterback there. And he's got crazy arm talent. Like it pops. He's a former Michigan quarterback transferred to Tennessee, but he's going to be the starter this upcoming season for Michigan. And he's got some eye-popping the ability to sling that football. Doesn't mean he's going to be a great quarterback, but one as well that I think you'd like to keep an eye on. And wow, just as we're about to close out here, we get the
we should have started the show by saying we're about to leave. Jeez.
Ethan coming in saying, speaking of cap savings, I have seen a lot of talk about adding Kareem Hunt. Spot Rack has his value at 2-year, $14 million, salary 7, ranked 301 running back out of 10. If Broncos interested, they would be better off a 1-year prove it deal. The fact that he's still out there, Spot Rack. What did they have for Dalton Reisner's contract? You like to mention that a lot. Yeah, $9 million.
9.
He'd be lucky to get 3 at this point. So Spot Rack is off on that. Whatever calculation that they used to try to predict the contract value was incorrect for these two players. I'd be shocked if Kareem Jackson got anything more than like a 2-year, $7 million contract. I think that's
Kareem Hunt and what Nick's saying is right, where you make it 2 years so you can spread out the signing bonus, the guaranteed money, but it would be the second year he's got a dead cap of $1 million. So 2 years, $8 million with 7 guaranteed, and it's a 1-year, $7 million deal. And we're going to take a $1 million dead cap hit next year when we cut him. So yeah, I think that's what you're going to see happening regardless. And I still wouldn't drop $7 million on Kareem Hunt right now. That's too much. That's too much for me. But we're certainly appreciating of your support. We'll see. We'll see what he ends up getting. Are you desperate enough that you want to spend? I know you can massage cap numbers and stuff, but you've got 10 left. Let's say even if you work it to 15, you want to spend half of your remaining cap space on Kareem Hunt? I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think so, though. Deanna Hendry coming in, too. Coming in bang, bang. Double shots here. Says, morning, Scott and Nick. Good morning, Broncos family. We are an Auburn family, too. Scott, have a great day, everyone. Well, good to hear. And that's what it is. It actually, they refer to themselves, and we refer to ourselves as the Auburn family. Because it's a little different down there. I think the closest, if any of y'all have been around Aggies, Texas A&M is pretty close, and kind of that cult. You're a family group of a couple 100,000 people. But yeah, did not know that, Deanna. And I don't talk about it too much because I grew up in Atlanta. I didn't grow up in Alabama where Auburn or Alabama is like part of who you are. I went to Auburn. That's not who I am, though.
No, you're Chelsea through and through.
Thank you.
Boys and
Yeah,
blue.
but I we appreciate you coming in. I know it's early for you, so thanks for the support as well.
And Zach says Kareem Hunt's a 1 or 2 million guys only these days. I think his vet minimum would be more than that, just based on like what they can actually pay him. I don't know what it is, but he's been in the league since 2014, 2015, 16.
No, he's not. I think I looked it up, and he was like, fortunately, I'm going to freeze. I thought he had 7 years under his belt.
Well, either way, the vet minimum for him would be more than 1 million. So that's I think it would have to be more than that. He came in the same draft class as Jamal Williams. I really loved him coming out of Toledo. Drafted in the Chiefs in the 3rd round. I think he'd have been like 2016.
He was the 2017 draft. So yeah, he's got 6 years under his belt. He's got I looked it up for a show the other day, and like his 895 carries put him like 7th in that class, 7th or 8th in that class, and the highest one was I don't remember, doesn't matter, but the highest one was 1350 carries, so less tread on the tires with Kareem Hunt for sure. Now, to be fair, we talk about this a lot. A lot of guys don't get that many carries because they're not good enough to get that many carries. They never earn them. Kareem Hunt is one of those exceptions. I like to take a look at, you could be behind a really good running back. Samaje Perine has less on there, but the number one I always think of was Michael Turner when he was deputizing LaDainian Tomlinson. Michael Turner was fantastic. Yeah. He just happened to get caught behind an all-timer. LaDainian Tomlinson is one of the best to ever play this game. And when Michael Turner got his chance to be the guy, he was an all-pro.
Yeah. Speaking of all-pros, Michael Ronquillo coming in. Great show today, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and Buckham. Go Broncos and Buckham to you all. I think Scott and I got to get on out of here. We said we'd do 45 minutes, and here we are at 51. And while I'm reading this, if there's any supers that come in, we'll definitely get to those. But unless not, we got to get going. Make sure you guys are following Scott and I. Scott is at Scout Kennedy on Twitter. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod. See, Chad got rid of it on the side now, so I keep mixing up building the Broncos for breakfast. So we are BFB_pod on Twitter as well. Make sure
we can make a new one.
No, it's too hard. It's too much work that early in the morning. I haven't had enough coffee. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. That'd be a big shout out for us. Obviously, articles and content coming out there and schedule release stuff. So make sure you're following us there. If you're on Facebook, join us on facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. I always say this, but appreciate everyone who's come in and started to do this some more. But if you haven't done so yet, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Find Mile High Huddle, find Huddle Up Podcast with us, and scroll down, leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps us a heck of a lot. We obviously do appreciate if you can come in and join us live and join the conversation, because that's a lot more fun all the way around. But some people can't. Some people are listening on their dog walks or commuting to work or during their break at work, whatever it is. But if you're doing that, make sure you find us after the fact and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Tell us what we can improve upon. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. I mean, either way, we're looking to get better. So we appreciate that when you guys do that. And as the ticker says here underneath, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Click that bell so that way you know when we go live. And I think that's going to have to do it for us today. I don't really have anything else to get into. Obviously, it's schedule release day. We're going to be finding out who the Broncos are going to be playing. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's the big news today. And then on Monday, I think we'll probably get into, go through it and maybe do a way too early win-loss. I think I was at 11-5 last year, or 11-6 last year. So oops. Yeah. So hopefully I might err on the side of caution this year. And Jeremy, thank you. I did see you come in and say on the Falcons podcast, do a 5-star on iTunes. So thank you very much, my friend. And speaking of other thanks, I want to thank you to Miguel and Michael and Keith over on Facebook. And then this morning, Deanna, DWI guys, Michaela Israel, and Robbie Red coming in with super chats on YouTube. So thank you for helping to kick our weekend off great.
Yeah, you guys are great. Appreciate you so much. Everyone have a safe weekend. Make sure you continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.